Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. 1,800 years passed, and the membrane of the miniature universe, the world of Jin, kept changing from dark blue to light blue. And one day, it turned white. True treasure palaces floating outside the world of Jin started to move. It's turned white. We can enter now. Let's go. More than 200 great beings flew toward the world of Jin, and tried to use their weapons to poke the membrane first. Then they realized that although the membrane was still exerting great power, godly bodies of universe masters could easily get through. After confirming that they could get through, the first true treasure palace flew in. Other true treasure palaces followed, including Luo Feng's boat of mausoleum. The world of Jin seemed to have a diameter of 10 million light-years from the outside, and the great beings entered it from different areas so they wouldn't gather. After the silver boat made it through the membrane of the miniature universe, it immediately rushed into the world of Jin. Luo Feng's godly power sensed the inexplicable force around him. It was a power so pleasing that his entire soul was as cheerful as a fish returning to a lake from a desert. This amazing sensation mesmerized Luo Feng. It feels so good. There's no restraint at all. Luo Feng was happily surprised. Rampaging devil god was exhilarated. Ha ha ha. This world of Jin is awesome. There's no restraint at all, and I can utilize all my godly power. He drove his palace true treasure, diving downward. He landed quickly on an ancient and endless land. There were towering mountains around him. The sky and land were filled with energy, and compared to the chaos air in Universe Ocean, the energies made Rampaging Devil God much more comfortable. This is where great beings should live. Rampaging Devil God was exhilarated. He roared. Howl! A streak of light flashed, and it was 1,000 times faster than light speed. A being with 3 heads, 1 golden one and 2 silver ones, appeared in front of Rampaging Devil God. All the heads had giant fangs. The 3 tails were like barbed metal whips. The strange, giant beast looked down at Rampaging Devil God and roared, F***ck off. This is my land. Rampaging Devil God could tell from the force of that strange beast that he was also a Universe Supreme Master. A Universe Supreme Master. Rampaging Devil God was astounded. Although the ancestral gods had mentioned that there were creatures in the world of Jin, he was still surprised to discover that the first creature he met was a Universe Supreme Master. F***ck off. The strange beast roared in anger again, giving another alert. Rampaging Devil God was even more dazed. He could understand the language, but he had no idea how to speak it. The language used by the strange, giant beast was very special. Even if one hadn't learned it, he could easily understand its meaning. Rampaging Devil God didn't know how to speak it. Rampaging Devil God opened his mouth, yet he didn't know what to say. I. Are you? You, I. Howl. The strange giant beast was furious. He didn't attack, as he could tell that Rampaging Devil Master was as powerful as he was, yet this individual, who was gleaming with golden light, ignored him as if he was provoking him. He turned into a streak of light, and 3 curves of light appeared in the sky left by the 3 tails of the strange giant beast. They swept toward Rampaging Devil God, who tried to dodge them. Suddenly, 3 giant gullies showed up on the ground. Rampaging Devil God grew anxious. He wanted to transmit his voice using his godly power. Under normal circumstances, he could totally transmit his voice to convey what he was thinking. However, his blurry godly power was destroyed by the giant strange beast as soon as it was sent. The giant strange beast grew more furious. Soul attack. Rampaging Devil God felt helpless. He couldn't even transmit his voice. "I won't fight you," said Rampaging Devil God. "How?" The strange giant beast charged at him. More than 200 great beings from Universe Ocean arrived. They were exhilarated to get into the world of Jinn, as it was a wonderful world. Of course, few were as unlucky as Rampaging Devil God, who had met a true god right as soon as he entered. The silver boat landed on a vast plain. Then it disappeared, and Luo Feng, clad in silver armor, showed up. He wore only crazy demon extermination, godly armor, and he a pinnacle soul true treasure to protect his soul. He was also carrying Blood Shadow Blade. By all appearances, out of all his equipment, only Blood Shadow Blade was special. This was his first time here, so he hadn't brought his most powerful valuables. What a beautiful world! Luo Feng took a deep breath. A fresh, powerful force infused his body, and it was turned into godly power. I can transform something into godly power that easily. In the original universe, I can only do that by using the law ocean. I can't believe I can transform the energies into godly power so easily. It is such a stable world. Luo Feng's godly power trembled. There weren't even any ripples in the space around him. It was stable beyond Luo Feng's imagination. Beautiful, stable, and majestic, Luo Feng was amazed. It was a perfect world, and it might actually contain the ultimate secret of Universe Ocean. A great being flew forward, stepping on the ground. He was fast and landed in front of Luo Feng immediately. It was a child with 2 black braids in his hair. He clutched a large piece of meat in his hands as he looked at Luo Feng. "Outsider," said the child, "this is the land of Dry Wilderness tribe. Why are you here? Are you one of the travelers our elders talk about?" Luo Feng was shocked by the language spoken by the child. The indigenous being in front of him was very mediocre. He was merely an emperor undying. However, the language he was using was that which had been used to document the information in the memory stones of Duan Dong River. Apparently, this was the common tongue of the ancient civilization. With the inheritance from the ancient civilization, Luo Feng had easily learned this language. Luo Feng nodded and spoke in the common tongue. "That's right, I am a traveler." "Wow! I want to be a traveler as well. However, I need to become a law knight before I can do that." There was envy in the child's eyes. In the virtual universe, Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City Leader stood at the top of Thunder Island. "I've entered the world of Jinn," said Luo Feng. "I can confirm that it's an incredible and extraordinary world. It's far beyond our imagining, and the language they use is the common tongue of the ancient civilization. I know this language, teacher. I'll leave the information about the language in the virtual universe. The indigenous creatures in World of Jinn are using the common tongue of the ancient civilization." Primal Chaos City Leader was startled. Then the world of Jinn might be a remnant left behind by the ancient civilization. No wonder there are secrets about incarnation transcendence in it. The language is indeed important. It is the most important factor in integrating with the indigenous creatures. The world of Jinn. Luo Feng carried his blade, and under the invitation of the child, he headed toward Dry Wilderness tribe. During his conversation with the child, he could tell that there were many beings who started to travel around when they became Law Universe Knights. Law Knights must be Universe Knights, thought Luo Feng. Law Masters must be Universe Masters. That's our tribe. The child was excited. He fly. 2 beings standing 100,000 kilometers tall were fighting in the distance. One held a blade, and the other held a spear. They were hitting each other like gods. One was blasted away, rolled, and hit the mountainside in the distance. A universe master. Luo Feng was thrilled. It seems they both have perfect life gene levels. Kill. Luo Feng carefully tried to sense the area. He saw there were many more great beings fighting in the distance. They were all universe masters. The warriors of my tribe are training, said the child. There are a billion creatures in my tribe, and they are all incredible warriors. They became law masters after countless battles. A billion creatures. Thoughts flooded Luo Feng's mind. Incredible. It seems that it's also difficult to become a universe master in the world of Jinn. He extrapolated as much as possible while he speaking with the child. After all, he knew nothing about the world of Jinn. Luo Feng and the child kept flying closer to the tribe. Huh! Luo Feng spotted 3 towering beings standing in the sky. They were all exceptionally powerful. They wore black armor and carried hammers and axes. Their forces permeated the area. True gods. 3 true gods. Luo Feng was shocked to have found 3 true gods so soon after entering the world of Jinn. How powerful did that make the rest of the world of Jinn? It was such an exceptional world, yet according to ancestral gods, the creatures living here would die instantly if they entered Universe Ocean. It was a powerful world, yet it was under heavy restraint. There was, indeed, a huge secret behind this place. Luo Feng grew more cautious. There were a billion members in the Might Dry Wilderness tribe. They had seen many creatures, like Luo Feng, who traveled around the world to sharpen themselves. It was so common that he wasn't even received by the seniors of the tribe. However, he was still warmly welcomed by hundreds of families around the child's family. Some great beings even came to fight Luo Feng. This race is obsessed with fighting, Luo Feng sighed. On a towering mountain, the strange giant beast and rampaging devil god were fighting each other. Moran. Is that all you've got? Rampaging devil god roared. Come, come, come. You've angered me, roared the strange, giant beast. Angered me. Rampaging devil god behaved even more recklessly, and didn't back down. He thought, I learned how to pronounce anger. Great beings had great memories. Nobody had ever spoken that kind of language in Universe Ocean, so Rampaging Devil God couldn't understand a word of it at the start. He listened to the pronunciation of that strange giant beast, and he could decipher the meaning of the common language of the ancient civilization. He could infer the meaning that corresponded to each word. It was very easy to learn a language that way. Rampaging Devil God kept provoking the strange giant beast as he attempted to learn the pronunciation of each word. After half an hour of fighting, he had learned the pronunciation of more than 300 words. You're not strong enough. Not strong enough. Rampaging Devil God yelled. Howl. The giant strange beast was furious. This outsider had armor to protect his body, so it was difficult to fight him. As for the giant beast, he moved without any burden, and he didn't have any precious armor from the land he randomly occupied. I'm angering you, angering you, angering you. Rampaging Devil God roared, using the word he had just learned. The giant strange beast stopped. Damn you. Rampaging Devil God was joyful. He had just learned the pronunciation of the word damn. He wasn't stupid. He had met a true god instantly after entering the world of Jinn. Apparently, the indigenous creatures were powerful beyond imagination. It was important to learn the language, and the best way to learn it was to talk to a certain creature. I'll keep bullying you to force you to talk. I only seek to wrong you anyway, Rampaging Devil God thought. You? Damn you. The giant strange beast looked up and roared. Come here. This guy is a handful, and he has armor. Kill him and divide the trophies. The voice was transmitted via godly power, and the limit speed in the world of Jinn was 10,000 times faster the speed of light in the original universe. After only a few seconds, great beings burst out from different places in the mountains, and they were all ferocious, strange beasts. Rampaging devil god looked around. 12 beings appeared in the sky, and all of them were true gods. You ask for help. Rampaging devil god roared and tried to retreat like a streak of light. Seize him. Don't let him run. He has armor. Capture him. The giant, strange beast and the 12 beings flew in all directions and encircled rampaging devil god. There were many members in the dry wilderness tribe. In one area, 2 beings were fighting like 2 streaks of light. Peng. Luo Feng's foot bore a gleaming golden light, and it struck the chest of his competitor like a burning star. The giant man rolled over and hit a hill in the distance. Rocks fell from the hill. Milky Way. The rolling man flew over, holding a black stick. He roared, "That was impressive, I couldn't even resist it. I've fought many travelers who came here before, and none of them was as powerful as you." Hundreds of children watching the fight in the distance all flew over. The leader of the children cheered. Uncle Milky Way must have been to lots of tribes. Ha ha. Luo Feng strolled the leader of the child, who was named Jinmo Yi. Luo Feng had been in the dry wilderness tribe for 3 days. In that time, he had pretended to be a common traveler obsessed with fighting. He learned more and more about the world of Jinn during these conversations and battles with the warriors from the dry wilderness tribe. First of all, the world of Jinn was an enormous world. Luo Feng didn't know the actual number, but he knew that the world of Jinn had a diameter of at least 1 trillion light-years. Although this miniature universe looked small from the outside, it was much bigger inside, much larger than the Holy Lands. Only the original universe was bigger than world of Jinn. The world of Jinn is indeed incredible. Luo Feng looked at the little child, Jinmo Yi, beside him and sighed. There were countless tribes in the world of Jinn. They fought each other for territory to survive, and their warriors were extraordinary as well. Besides, all creatures born in the world of Jinn would become undying when they matured. They took the energies from the world of Jinn from birth, and as time went by, they mastered a law. Everyone could become undying, and after some training, they could become law knights, universe knights. However, it was very difficult to become law masters, universe masters. Normally, only 1 out of 100 ordinary warriors, law knights, could become a law master. As for true treasures, it was rarer. And those more powerful than true treasures were exceptional. However, based on his conversations with the locals, there must have been beings more powerful than true gods, as there was one in dry wilderness tribe. He was the greatest being of the tribe, and he was also their pride and joy. It was their leader, dry wilderness. Because of the power of this leader, the status of dry wilderness tribe was very stable. Incarnation transcendence, incarnation transcendence. Luo Feng was excited upon hearing the news. Surpassing true gods meant successfully transcending incarnations. There was a powerful being that surpassed true gods in dry wilderness tribe, which meant there must have been lots of beings like this in the world of Jinn. It was right for the powers from Universe Ocean to come to the world of Jinn to look for chances of transcending incarnations. On the 6th day of Luo Feng's stay in dry wilderness tribe, he was talking to his best friend here, Northern Wind. Northern Wind, he said. I'm leaving. Leaving? Are you continuing traveling? Said Northern Wind. Northern Wind was a highly gifted warrior, and the entire tribe believed he could become a true god. He was also the most powerful universe master that Luo Feng had fought. Of course, Luo Feng could still suppress him, which was why they admired each other. No. I'm joining the military this time. Luo Feng looked into the distance. The military. Northern Wind's eyes gleamed. Yes. There was a measure of expectation in Luo Feng's voice. I've been traveling for a long time, so it's time for me to join the military. I want to be stronger, so I want to join the military of the king. That's the best way. That's where countless great beings of the world of Jin gather. After learning lots of information from the tribe, Luo Feng knew that the tribes in the world of Jin also called this world of Jin. Besides, the entire world had a common master, Majesty of Godly King. Luo Feng knew that the world of Jin was only one power that belonged to the great Majesty of Godly King, and it was for honing great beings. Only supreme beings were summoned by Majesty of Godly King, left the world of Jin, and fought for him. To fight for Majesty of Godly King was the desire of all the indigenous creatures in the world of Jin. However, Majesty of Godly King hadn't taken supreme beings from the world of Jin for a long time. Luo Feng was astounded when he learned this information. The entire world of Jin belonged to a single king. Because of the inheritance from Duandong River, Luo Feng knew that there were many powers in the ancient civilization. Wu was one such power, and the supreme leader of Wu was the so-called Majesty. That was the information Luo Feng got from the inheritance. The previous Duandong River was bestowed with the name Wu, and it was an incredible honor. In the military of the world of Jin, only those most talented and bravest elites could be bestowed the name Jin. And Majesty of Godly King hadn't summoned warriors from his world of Jin for a long time. Luo Feng extrapolated that Wu and Jin must be different powers from the ancient civilization. Duandong River was from the Wu team, the world of Jin was from the Jin team. Majesty of Godly King hadn't summoned great beings for a long time. The world of Jin was in universe ocean now, and it was in the human-shaped object. Luo Feng extrapolated that the great Majesty of Godly King from Jin might have died, and that human figure was Majesty of Godly King. That godly body is so powerful that it can crash universe boat. The shock waves can annihilate supreme true treasures, and the breath inside his body could annihilate supreme true treasures. That's a supreme being from the ancient civilization. The ancient civilization was mighty. Universe boat, Duandong River, the black-striped stone pillar, boat of mausoleum, Shawu Wing. He could tell from everything that had been left behind. But even though the ancient civilization had been powerful, it hadn't ended well. The beings in the world of Jin were lucky to still be alive. However, they couldn't leave the world of Jin at all. If they did, they would die instantly. The world of Jin was for cultivating great beings for the military, which was why a portion of warriors at the Law Master level would be taken away. They would spend a long time in the military, after which they could retire. If they were layabouts, however, they would be hunted by the entire world of Jin. The military was the most powerful force in the world of Jin. There were lots of pieces of armor in the military. The so-called supreme true treasures were only outfits for true gods. There were also lots of inheritances. However, the elimination rates in the military were very high. And if someone was eliminated, he would die. It was so ruthless that fewer than 5 out of 100 who entered the military survived. There were many benefits to joining the military. 99% of the great beings in the world of Jin, including those stronger than true gods, gathered in the military. The core secrets were shared only there, which was why Luo Feng had to go. He believed that with the inheritance from Duandong River, he could earn a place in the military. Are you going to the military? Northern Wind roared. Wait. There will be a group of warriors from my tribe going, and I'll join as well. We can go together. Oh? Luo Feng nodded. Then let's join the military together. So, in order to set off together, Luo Feng waited at Dry Wilderness tribe. However, what Northern Wind, a warrior from this tribe, meant by very quickly, was actually a long period of half a year. In the virtual universe, at the peak of Thunder Island, a group of universe masters from the human race had gathered, ready to discuss their plan of action regarding the fourth most dangerous land, the world of Jinn. Universe masters were steadily arriving, and the atmosphere was filled with enthusiasm. Have you heard that there is an existence in the world of Jinn that transcends a true god? I heard that within the world of Jinn, there are many supreme true treasures. Luo Feng, are there many universe supreme masters over there? Every one of these universe masters was extremely excited. Luo Feng was the only one from the human race who had entered the world of Jinn this time. The other great beings were in no rush at all. Primal Chaos City Leader appeared. All the universe masters ceased to chatter as the place quietened down. Primal Chaos City Leader sat on the main throne with Luo Feng on one side and Darkness Master on his other side. "Dear all," he said. Seated on the main throne, his gaze swept across the crowd. At this point, the world of Jinn has been opened for some time. Other than our Hong Alliance, great beings from the various groups of top powers from Universe Ocean have also entered the world of Jinn. The Hong Alliance has collected quite a bit of information, the other groups of powers have also gathered some information. After we have exchanged information and communicated with one another about certain information. Today, I will explain certain things before we decide on what approach we should adopt toward this world of Jinn. World of Jinn. Incomparably powerful. But, in actual fact, it should be considered a fragment of the world of the ancient civilization, Primal Chaos City Leader said. The ancient civilization fell long ago. This world of Jinn may be powerful, but its great beings, who were natives of that world, were eternally kept within the world of Jinn. There is no way out alive. The humans. We are the true protagonists of this era. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. In reality, when he had established contact with the world of Jinn, he did feel the pressure, but now, hearing this. Indeed, the world of Jinn could only be considered a large cage. The great beings inside, no matter how impressive they were, could not leave. Their era was a thing of the past. Now, it was his generation's turn to be the protagonists. It, of course, will never truly be as powerful as the world of the ancient civilization, in its entirety, Primal Chaos City Leader said solemnly. Yet it was, after all, a fragment of that world of the ancient civilization. To us, who are still very tender, this is definitely an opportunity not to be missed, and also, a challenge we should face up to. Now, from the human race, only Luo Feng stands alone in the world of Jinn. Over there, universe supreme masters were known as true gods. And the existences at this true god level are aplenty. And of course, since these true god existences were considered to be supreme masters, they can occupy a small territory. But in the world of Jinn, there are existences more powerful than true gods. So long as we can achieve that level, we can easily transcend reincarnation. Fighting. In the world of Jinn, there is fighting everywhere. The core of the world of Jinn is none other than its army, an army that belongs to a particular majesty of godly king. This army is formed by carrying out brutally stringent selection and elimination processes. Once a great being sets foot in there, all freedom is lost. He must adhere to military orders and undergo various cruel selection tests, where the risks of annihilation are extremely high. Primal Chaos City Leader added most solemnly, the various groups of powers of Universe Ocean have sent more than 200 great beings in, but solely from what I know, the number annihilated already exceeds 120. What? Exceeds 120. So many. There were exclamations of shock all over the place, even Luo Feng was in shock. Primal Chaos City Leader had not mentioned anything about this to him. Yes. Primal Chaos City Leader nodded. In World of Jinn, there are many tribes established in addition to the countless ancient tribes. There are many kinds of special life forms and various kinds of beasts entrenched in the wilderness. Walking about the lands in the wilderness is dangerous, as you may easily be attacked. The natives know of certain safe routes, but we don't, which is why more than half the number of great beings were annihilated, although they had spent less than half a year in the world of Jinn after entering. No one has been accepted into the army yet. And already, more than half have been annihilated. If the final selections were made, it was said that the rate of annihilation would exceed 95%. Being part of the army, one can have access to the detailed guidance on cultivating to become an existence that surpasses a true God, but judging by the rate of annihilation, it is clear that throughout our entire universe ocean, there might not even be one who could finally achieve the level that surpasses a true God. Silence. The human universe masters, who had been filled with enthusiasm and eagerness earlier, all fell silent. Even without being accepted into the army, many great beings were annihilated. With the army in the picture, another batch of universe masters hoping to become universe supreme masters, true gods, would be further eliminated, and from true god to an even higher level, the army would not impart their information that easily, so the rate of elimination would be unimaginably high. How cruel! Even Luo Feng kept mum. Indeed, it would be difficult. But he was confident. My human race already has the inheritance of the ancient civilization, Primal Chaos City leader said. In that world of Jinn, it qualifies to be regarded as a high-end inheritance. This is why we should not take the risk for now. We should just observe for the time being. With the passing of time, when more things about the world of Jinn are unearthed, the secrets of the world of Jinn will gradually surface. For those who earnestly want to go ahead, then only those with multiple bodies shall be allowed to venture into the world of Jinn. We have to be prudent. The universe masters started to cool down, and were no longer as fervent as before. A true blue great being was fearless, but not reckless. Luo Feng also agreed with Primal Chaos City leader's suggestion. After all, based on what he had learned, there was no inheritance within the tribes. Should anyone want to become a supreme master, the only way was to be accepted into the army. This was the ironclad law of the world of Jinn. Only upon being accepted into the army was one allowed to have the profound inheritance, yet even if they gained guidance, those returning great beings would not dare to impart anything within their tribes. As for entering the army, it was too dangerous. The tragic results of the first batch of entrants seemed to have poured a bucket of cold water over the various top powers. They had been filled with enthusiasm and eagerness earlier on, but the reality had awakened them from any wishful thinking. Inheritance. Within the army, there was a profound inheritance, an inheritance that could allow them to transcend reincarnation, but were they able to survive the tedious selection process to get that inheritance? Supreme true treasure. There were many in the army, but those were standard pieces of equipment made for true gods. How many true gods were there in the universe ocean? Not even 100. And if they were to join the army, more than 90% would be annihilated. Would there not be only less than 10 true gods left in the entire universe ocean? Just to get hold of standard equipment. Just the thought of it could send shivers down one's spine. No rush. We can only enter once every era, so we can take it slow. So what if the great beings, who were natives of the world of Jinn, were very powerful? They are trapped in there for eternity. Those pitiful natives, still shouting about their loyalty to fight for their majesty of godly king. I think their majesty of godly king may have already been annihilated. The various groups of top powers from the universe ocean seemed to have realized how powerless they were, so they took it as they were the protagonists of their era, while their opponents were merely pitiful creatures trapped in a large cage. They believed as much purely to console themselves, to feel better about their plight. After all, they were all top-tiered existences to begin with, but when they were in the world of Jinn, they became ordinary great beings. Who would not feel terrible when subjected to such an extreme change? World of Jinn, dry wilderness tribe. Northern Wind was shouting for Luo Feng. Let's go, Milky Way, let's go. We must set off now. Luo Feng bade farewell to some friends he had made over the past half a year. Then he speedily went over to meet up with Northern Wind. You must come back. Trust me. Do return. If you don't become a true god, you can forget about coming back to me. There was much hustle and bustle as a big crowd of tens of thousands of people gathered, consisting of good friends, or children who were eager and full of hope. These children yearned to join the army when they grew up. However, the baseline for joining the army was that they needed to be lawmasters. Come up quickly, roared a true god wearing a helmet. On his helmet was a pair of horns, one of which was broken. Hurry! A dark red, huge ship was suspended above him. This ancient ship exuded a powerful aura. Raising his head to look up, Luo Feng saw that this ancient ship was a supreme true treasure. Back when Uncle Northern Rock was in the army, he had made a great achievement, Northern Wind said with great excitement. Thus, he earned himself this battleship. With this battleship, we will be much safer on our way to the army base. When I get to the army, I will ask for a bigger and more powerful battleship. Luo Feng said, we should get something better. Much better than this. Yes, something much better. Northern Wind nodded. The true god with a helmet, who was gathering his fellow tribespeople, turned back to look. With one wave, he gave Northern Wind a firm pat on his shoulder. His pat was so strong that Northern Wind's body actually trembled slightly. Well said. You are doing better than me. Wind. From our family of the Northern name. By far, you are the most outstanding one. Don't put us to shame. Yes, Uncle, Northern Wind replied right away. Luo Feng was a little taken aback by what he saw. How terrifying. One casual pat from this true god, who had appeared so suddenly. He was worried that if that had been his shoulder instead, he would not have been able to dodge in time. This was undoubtedly a powerful true god, one who had survived the brutal stages of selection, and even worthy enough to earn a reward. What might be a casual pat on the shoulder to this true god, from how Luo Feng saw it, in terms of how impressive its strength was, Luo Feng's guess was that it would have reached the level of 9th tier as the top. Let's go. Northern Wind called out to Luo Feng, who also following Northern Wind into the battleship. One after another, powerful warriors from the clan were entering the battleship. Some started to howl loudly. Apparently, it was a way to show that they were filled with boundless fighting spirit. A short moment later, the interior of the battleship was very simple. The huge cabin could house 800 lofty bodies, where each and every one was consistently at a height of 10,000 kilometers. There might even be some who were as tall as 100,000 kilometers tall, but none dared to make any reckless moves. This time, from my dry wilderness tribe, there will be 800 warriors joining the East Army. Northern Rock, true god, stood in the forefront as he spoke in his forceful voice. This time around, other than our tribe, there will be another brave soul joining us on our adventure, Milky Way. Given Milky Way's power, among all 800 of you, none is comparable at all. If there is someone here who can get into the army and catch up with Milky Way, I will give this battleship to him. Suddenly, many warriors looked toward Luo Feng, and there was an air of provocation. Luo Feng felt a sense of helplessness. He had become a benchmark. He might have sparred with quite a few great beings these days, but these 800 warriors came from different regions of the entire tribe. So there were many whom Luo Feng had yet to cross paths with. What are you all staring at? Roared the gigantic Northern Wind, who stood beside Luo Feng. Even I am not Milky Way's match. Let alone all of you. What? Even Northern Wind yourself is not a match. The simple-minded warriors, who had been more provocative earlier, on instantly looked at Luo Feng differently. Many of them were in shock, and felt a newfound admiration for Luo Feng. The whole world of Jin was always respectful toward powerful great beings. Northern Rock True God shouted, "All you young fellows. I'm not afraid to tell you all that back when I was still a lawmaster. I joined the army with a batch of 800 fellow tribesmen, but in the end, only 21 of us made it back alive. And only 3 of us could finally become true gods. I truly hope that all of you here can be stronger than my batch." Instant silence. Everyone knew how brutal life in the army was, but they were all gathered for the purpose of joining. And now, hearing what Northern Rock True God had to say, the pressure on them grew even heavier. True God. Not only must we be true gods, but we must become true gods of the void space. Northern Wind bellowed. True God of the void space. True God of the void space. Warriors of the other tribes suddenly started howling one by one. This was their dream. That was every warrior's dream, and the entire dry wilderness tribe only had one true God of the void space. It was none other than their tribe leader. All of them yearned to become an invincible true God of the void space. Luo Feng stood aside in silence, with fists clenched, as he listened to the ongoing conversations. A true God of the void space. Based on the information he had, above a true God, was a true God of the void space. Northern Rock True God's lips curved upward, as he saw the upsurge of fighting spirit from his tribe's warriors. Then he shouted, "Let's set off." The ancient battleship swept past, like flowing light, and rapidly disappeared into the sky. This video will end here.